Hey everyone, thank you so much for spending a bit of your time with me today and joining me on this Overcome Speech Anxiety Live training. So, first of all, I hope you're doing really well. I hope you've got yourself ready, maybe a cup of tea or coffee, you've got a notes pad. We're going to be going through some really important things that can help us to overcome that speech anxiety when we feel it. But I just want to make sure that you're ready for this because we're going to be going through. So here's a little rundown what we're going to do. We're going to speak first of all about why we get anxious. Then, after we've done that, we're going to focus on how we could overcome it. I've got 7 strategies to help you overcome speech anxiety. And then we're going to have our main key takeaway. So let's just double check this here first of all. Okay, good. So, have you ever experienced speech anxiety? I'm sure you have. That's why you're here. That's why you're connecting into this stream. You know, most people think that speech anxiety doesn't affect those who are really confident. Some people genetically can just go and speak. It doesn't affect them. But the truth is that we all experience speech anxiety from time to time. Even those people you think, oh no, they're way too confident to be, getting anxiety. That's not true. It affects all of us. We all experience speech anxiety. 75% of the world, in fact, experiences speech anxiety. That's a lot, isn't it? 75% of the entire population of this world. So it's almost an epidemic, you could say. It's connected to general anxiety we feel, whether that's social anxiety or some other type of general unease. And it has a name. It's called glossophobia, the fear of public speaking. Now, I was experiencing a bit of speech anxiety before we started this stream. It was starting to creep up on me a little bit. I had to employ some of the strategies we're going to talk about in just a moment to be able to overcome my speech anxiety. So don't worry about feeling, oh, is it just me? No. As I said, it's very common. So how can we then handle our anxiety? We need to be able to do it, and we need to be able to not let it hold us back. Because that's the biggest problem with speech anxiety. It holds us back from doing the things that we want to do. I mean, what would you like to do? What are some of the things that you've wanted to do, the stages you've wanted to get on, maybe the work meetings you would have liked to have had? Sometimes you think, I would have liked to have held that presentation. And yet you didn't. Maybe because anxiety, you know you're going to get anxious. You know you're not going to be able to do it. You feel like that inside. So this training is designed to help you to see you can do it. You can take the lead, get up on the stage, speak passionately about the things that you care about, no matter what situation that's in. And that it's just about knowing how to take our anxiety and reduce it or remove it. So here we go then. Here are some of the things that we can do. So if you're taking notes, this is number 1. This is don't sit in your anxiety. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, we're backing up, first of all, away from the actual presentation itself. And before we were to even get to the venue, we need to not be allowing the anxiety to build up too much. How do we do that? Well, we don't just sit there stressing about, oh, what's going to happen? Or am I going to trip over my words? No, we make sure we keep ourselves busy. We do what we can to prepare ourselves for what's going to happen. And then we make sure we don't allow the negative thoughts to crowd in and ruin any confidence that we have. We don't want to basically have to run away from the opportunities that are in front of us. So what we do is we go for a walk, or we go to the gym, we do some exercising. I heard someone say the other day that exercising the body frees the mind. So if you want to be able to free your mind, you need to not sit in your anxiety. So go and exercise, get out and do something. Or maybe if you're like me and you have a list of jobs that you need to do around the house, maybe it's time to get on with some of those. My wife always has several prepared. So maybe get out there and do some of those jobs that you know you need to get on with. That's something that can be very useful. We're basically just keeping our mind off of it, not allowing those negative thoughts to take hold of us. Because if you're like me and you're a bit shy and nervous, allowing those thoughts in can basically ruin our confidence. Now, I forgot to mention at the beginning of this, if you have any questions about what we're talking about, if you have anything you would like to ask, at the end of this, when we've gone through all of the strategies, I've given you the one big takeaway, we're going to do a Q&A. So make sure if you have any questions, you write them down and you can ask me. We'll take as long as it takes to go through all of the questions we have. Some people have sent some in already, so we've got those as well. So don't sit in your anxiety. It will just ruin any confidence you do have and stop you from being able to take the opportunities you want. Next, we need to, this is number 2, visualize our success. What does that mean? Well, when you think about athletes, professional athletes, they don't think about the things that will go wrong. Instead, they focus on the things that are going to go really well. And they do that by replacing negative images in their mind with positive ones. I heard of a study that was to do with basketball. And in this study, they had 3 groups. You had a group who were playing basketball. They would do it every day. They would practice every day. They had a group who wouldn't practice. They were the control group. And then they had another group who would just every day for an hour visualize throwing that ball into the basket. Now, the group that didn't do anything didn't improve. The group who were practicing every day for an hour improved the most. But those who visualized the shooting that hoop, they improved nearly as much as those who practiced every day. So if you want to be able to crush the anxiety, we need to replace negative thoughts with positive ones. So how do we do that? We think about how well our speech is going to go. In your mind, you need to imagine yourself giving the opening of your speech and you doing a great job with it. Then you need to imagine going through and making the points and visualizing the audience nodding along with you. You can even go as far as getting to the end and having the audience burst into rapturous applause because they loved it so much. By doing this, we're replacing those negative thoughts with positive ones. And did you know science has proved that the brain can't really tell the difference, on a chemical level, between actually doing something and imagining doing something. So imagining, like we said with that study with the basketballers, is as good for you as just going and practicing. So you could keep practicing and practicing, but if you visualize as well positive things that happen to you, it will make it as if it's really happened. And that will raise your confidence because your brain can't tell the difference. Amazing psychology that we can play there on ourselves. Okay, so we've said don't sit in your anxiety and visualize your success. 2 ways of changing our mental state. Now, what's another thing we can do? Well, when we get to the venue, you might have noticed you start to get the shakes. You can't keep your hands still. Maybe your leg starts twitching and your heart starts beating and your mouth, it goes a bit dry. Have you had that? I've had that loads of times. How do we then, because this is adrenaline starting to pump up, you're starting to realize you're about to have to do this thing or not do it. And that's a choice. And if you're going to face it down, you need to control your adrenaline. How do we do that? We control our adrenaline by breathing. Breathing controls that spike in our body. It allows more oxygen in, because what happens normally is as we start to feel anxious, we take short, sharp breaths. And those short, sharp breaths don't let any oxygen in, which is not great for us, where they're not breathing properly. We need to take longer, controlled breaths. So what's the best way to do this? Well, there's a method you can use. It's called the box breathing. Basically, you have 4 sides. So you hold in a breath. You take in a breath for 4 seconds, a deep, long breath. Then you hold that breath for 4 seconds. I won't do it because it takes too long, but you get the idea. You hold on to that breath. And then you let out the breath over 4 seconds. So that you can see the box forming, and then you breathe, then you wait for 4 seconds before taking your next breath. This is all just about slowing the pace of your breathing. It's about taking the opportunity to allow the oxygen to get into your body and calming your mind. Again, mindset is really key in controlling anxiety. So we do this, but what else can we do while we're breathing that can help us? Well, what you can do is you can think about what you're going to say. What's your opening line? Because the opening line to your presentation, if you get that right, you'll knock your presentation out of the park. So you need to be running through that opening line again and again and again while breathing deeply, getting the oxygen into your body. And if you focus on your breathing, it really will help reduce that anxiety. The last thing you need is to not have enough oxygen in your body. We all know we need to breathe, but because if we don't breathe, we're going to pass out. So make sure you focus on your breathing before taking to the stage. The next thing we could do is shift our focus from ourselves onto the audience. Now, the audience are the ones who we really want to impact, don't we? We want to help them to gain something from what we're saying. So if we're not worrying about ourselves, not trying to focus on ourselves, oh, what am I going to say? What if I trip up? What if things don't go the way I expect them to? And instead, focus on the audience, well, then we're thinking, how can I impact them? How can I say my message, whatever it is, in a way that will really resonate with them, that they will be able to take home? When we're not thinking about ourselves, well, after all, that is kind of what we do, isn't it? We think about ourselves. But when we're not thinking about ourselves and we're thinking about our audience, we're really helping them to learn what we're talking about. And that focus away from ourselves will help reduce the anxiety we're feeling. So you can see how these things, it's sort of like you need to layer these different tactics on top of each other to really be able to reduce or remove the anxiety completely. And the more we layer them on, taking it in stages, progression of these strategies, the more we can reduce our speech anxiety. Now, if you're with me for a minute, just have a drink. Let's keep hydrated. Okay, so we can shift our focus, not being self-conscious, but conscious of our audience, wanting to give them the best experience. And then because we're not thinking about ourselves, will really help them to gain something from what we say. Okay, what else can we do? Well, I love this one because I'm not perfect. I don't know if you've not noticed that. I make mistakes. I trip up. I don't always get things right. Sometimes I stumble over a word. And you know, you're not perfect. Sorry to say it, but that's the truth. You're not. So why are you expecting perfection from yourself when you step onto a stage? I mean, I've stumbled already once or twice over my words in this presentation. I forgot to announce that we're doing question and answers at the beginning, but that's okay because I expect to make mistakes. I'm not making mistakes for the rest of my material because I have that all worked out. And that's one of the next points we'll come on to. But embracing the fact that I'm not perfect, so it's not going to be a perfect performance, is one of the best ways we can help our audience to be able to take away something from it. And we can help ourselves because lowering the standard that we expect of ourselves will help our audience to take away everything from our material and reduce the anxiety we're feeling. So don't expect a perfect performance from yourself. Instead, just try to give your absolute best. Try to deliver the material that you've prepared in the best way possible and expect that if you do make a mistake, the audience will actually prefer that. Do you know the audience connects with moments like that? When you trip up over a word or you forget what you were going to say, they actually take something more away from that than they do if you were a perfect, polished performer. Because people like, especially these days, authenticity. We're living in a world where AI computers can literally make avatars which can speak perfect English and perfectly say something, but it doesn't connect authentically because they're not human. Perfection doesn't equal connection. So make sure you don't expect too much of yourself And if you don't expect too much of yourself, your anxiety will come down. So I love that one because I know that I make a lot of mistakes. I'm sure I've made several. I'm sure you've maybe cringed at one or two as we've gone through this presentation. But I want to show you that you don't have to be perfect in order to make a genuine connection with your audience. Okay, so the next one is really one that actually comes right at the beginning before you do anything else. And that is to prepare thoroughly. Prepare thoroughly. Okay, well, why do we do that? Well, because sometimes we start to think, oh, I don't know what to say, especially if you're like me, that even though, I've been speaking publicly 20 years, but I still have that feeling inside of, I don't know what to say, or I'm not worth listening to, which is silly because I have a wealth of experience that I know people can benefit from, because people have said to me before, oh, I wish I could do what you do. So we need to prepare thoroughly, because preparing thoroughly counteracts that mental state of imposter syndrome, feeling like you're not worth speaking on a stage. You don't know anything. People shouldn't listen to you. When you prepare it thoroughly, you structure it, and you then have practiced it as well, you start to realise, actually, I do have something to say. This is actually quite good. And people need to listen to this material. So preparing and practicing are fundamentals to public speaking. But people seem to have this idea that they can get up on a stage and just wing it. But you can't. 20 years of public speaking, I still have notes in front of me. They're bullet points. I'm not reading as a script off on my notes, but I know that without them, I'll forget things. I forget things with them. So I'm going to do even worse without them. So make sure you have well worked out notes well in advance, and you've practiced and practiced, not to the point of it being wooden, but to the point of having a good familiar idea of what you're going to say. So preparation is really powerful and really helpful for you. Okay, number 7. We're getting through these, aren't we? Number 7, engage in progressive muscle relaxation. What is progressive muscle relaxation? Well, this is a technique you can use, and it's one that I've used myself. Now, what happens when we start to get anxious is our body, our muscles start to get tight, and we start to not be able to move. We feel stiff. We feel like, we can't. And that's unfortunately what happens. And because we don't know about this technique, we don't know what to do about it. We end up being stiff and uncomfortable. And that stiffness comes through in a wooden performance, because we feel like we can't move our arms and we can't vocalize with our voice, and we feel like a deer in the headlights. So progressive muscle relaxation is the practice of tensing as hard as you can your muscles. Now remember, if you're going to be doing public speaking, you might want to find a quiet space, maybe go to the toilets, maybe go out into the corridor. If there's a green room, if you're doing a big keynote event or something, you can go to one of these spaces for a bit of calm to work through some of these things to reduce your anxiety. But what we do is we tense our muscles as much as we can in different groups as well. Maybe starting with our arms, then we could do our chest, we could go work our way down our body, and we tense, hold that tense, but practice then letting go of the tension. Because like I said, we get tense because of the adrenaline and because of that fear that's building inside us. But when we tense and then let it go, we practice letting it go, it makes us feel more relaxed. We've practiced letting go of our tension. So when we're tensed on the stage and we're about to start, we can let go because we've practiced letting go of that tension. And this works really well. I must admit, it was one of those techniques that I found a little bit later into my speaking career, but really changed the game for me because I didn't know how to release that tension. So practicing releasing the tension really helped me to feel more comfortable on stage. And another bonus tip for helping you, this is not number, this is an asterisk at the bottom of your 7, is to move. Now, the adrenaline that builds up, like we said, is because anxiety and fear, you're facing a situation that puts you outside your comfort zone. And the primal thinking is to either fight or flight. We're either going to stand our ground and fight, or we're going to run away from the situation. So what we need to do in that situation is to move. We don't want to run away, literally, because we want to take the opportunity that's in front of us. But maybe before we get on the stage, we need to move. Maybe we need to go out into the corridor or the green room or the toilets and do something silly. Wave your arms about, do star jumps, walk up and down, run up and down, burn off the adrenaline. Like we said, exercising helps focus the mind. And if we burn off that adrenaline that is wanting us to move, either for physical fighting or for running away, then we're going to be able to calm down our mind. So if we do all these things, we work on putting it all together, using them in sequence through preparation, not sitting in our anxiety, visualizing our success, shifting our focus to benefit the audience, embracing our imperfections, because we all have imperfections, preparing thoroughly, working on that progressive muscle relaxation, breathing, and basically moving about before we get on the stage. And even if we feel anxiety building up in the stage, we move. I mean, this is why gesturing is so powerful. It connects the audience to you. They keep their eyes on you because they see movement, but you burn off adrenaline as it builds up and it calms you down. And putting these all together means that we can go from feeling anxious to conquering our fears. But there is something that we need to understand about anxiety. So, you may not understand this, but I'm going to explain it to you now. The biggest takeaway of all of this training is that you need to be the imposter. What do I mean by that? Well, really, tackling speech anxiety is an ongoing effort. Like I said today, 20 years of public speaking, and yet I still had to work through these tactics to reduce my anxiety down. So feeling imposter syndrome, feeling like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this, I don't deserve to be doing this, I don't deserve to have the attention of the audience. It really is a case of understanding that anxiety will come back up. You'll put yourself in a situation where you feel imposter syndrome, where you feel anxiety for public speaking again. Maybe when you push through a new door into a new uncomfortable place. And we have to get comfortable with that, because handling anxiety is actually how we conquer it. We conquer it by knowing that I can overcome my anxiety and I can get on the stage and speak. And if we can do that, then all of a sudden, although we get anxious, we know we can handle it. We know we can get past it, and we won't be worried about feeling anxious anymore. So these are the tips that can help us. And if you go through them, yes, you will be able to be a confident and comfortable public speaker when it comes to conquering your anxiety. But really, this is just part of the jigsaw of public speaking. Overcoming your anxiety is just one part of the puzzle. And putting it all together, all the different things you need, it's good preparation and how we can structure our speech. What's the best structure for putting a speech together? Hooks, what sort of hooks really capture attention? Should I use statistics or should I use a bold question? Storytelling, a really important way of actually keeping people on board, whether that's an overarching story or using illustrations, and pulling it all together in different ways. So to help you, because you've joined me on this stream and you've been here and we've gone through these anxiety conquering tips, and we're going to go through some questions in a minute as well, have them prepared. But because you've been here with me and you've been on this stream, I want to give you the opportunity, and I want to give you an offer of 20% off my beginner's guide to public speaking. Now this guide is everything that I've learned over the last 20 years of public speaking. It's an online course that will walk you through everything you need to know, from all the mistakes that I've made, all the lessons I've learned, all the techniques that I've gained, distilled down into a simple guide, a simple step-by-step course that you can keep forever. You have lifetime access to it. Now, normally the course is £297, but because you've been with me today, I'm giving you 20% off the course. So that will be £237.60. And like I say, you have lifetime access. So any updates, any revisions, any new parts added to the course, you will get. You will never lose access to it. And the best thing about that is you can pick an area to work on. Like today, we're working on anxiety. And then you can develop yourself and then move on to the next step and the next step. And slowly over time, you can transform yourself into an amazing public speaker. So like I say, I want to give you that opportunity. So what I'll do, I'll pop a link here in the chat. I'll do that quickly. And get your questions ready. So if you want to ask some questions, we're going to be doing that next. So that's the link that will take you to the page where you can get hold of that offer for my online course. And like I say, even if you're not new to public speaking, you're not a beginner, it's a fundamentals course that will help turn you from, a good speaker into an amazing speaker. And you'll be able to stand on any stage. And even the amazing thing about public speaking and all these tips from anxiety all the way through to the course and learning how to be an excellent speaker has helped me in all areas of my life. So if you want to be able to get that course, if you want to transform yourself into an excellent speaker, go there, get that course, and you'll be able to do that. Absolutely. And to say, if you have any questions about it, you can ask them too. So that offer is available until tomorrow, the 24th of July at midnight for you. And obviously, if you've been registered onto this, I'll send you an email as well to send you that offer in case you lose it. But we want to go through some questions, don't we? Now, your questions can be about anxiety, public speaking, or if you need to speak or ask any questions about anything else, even the course which we've just been speaking about. If you want more information on that, feel free to ask any questions. I'd love to be able to answer them for you. And I really hope that this training has helped you, because I know how much it's helped me. I know how conquering anxiety has helped me. I said in a post the other day that I went to a social event. It was an anniversary party. There were so many people there in the corners feeling anxious and not able to get up and speak. And I used to be like that. I used to be the one who was in the corner and not wanting people to come and make small talk with me. Now I'm the one who's going to them making small talk, because I've overcome my fears and know I can hold a conversation with people. I know I can hook attention with people. I can say things concisely in a way that makes them interested to continue a conversation, unless they're so unbelievably anxious and uncomfortable that you can't get like blood out of a stone. But so I'm not that person anymore who can't hold that conversation. And that to me is amazing. I can't believe that about myself, that I'm able to do that, because I learned how to speak publicly. And like I say, distilled all of that down into a course for you that can help you do the same. So let's have some questions then, shall we? Here we are. I had a couple of people send some questions in ahead of time. And as I say, if you have your questions about public speaking, anything to do with public speaking, it could be storytelling, it could be to do with opening your speeches, or the best way to prepare, or even how you can use AI. That's an amazing thing at the moment. Feel free to pop them into the chat, and I'm really happy to answer any questions you have. But Osama, unfortunately, couldn't be on this live today, this training. So he sent me a few questions ahead of time, which some of these are really, really good. So I want to thank you, Osama, for sending these in. This one I thought was really, really good. It's, how can someone build long-term confidence in public speaking, especially if they've had negative experiences in the past? Well, I'm going to guess from this question that you've had some negative experiences. I'd love to know more about what your experiences have been. What happened exactly that made your experience negative? Was it just internal? Because I tell you something about myself. When I do public speaking, and I've done it before, I've got onto a stage, I've given a speech, and then I've got off the stage and felt like it was an awful... remember that word I tripped over, and I feel like it was terrible. I feel like I did an awful job, and I can't believe that it didn't go the way I expected it to. And do you know what I've done? This has helped me so much. I voice record all my speeches. You can do that quite easily. You could put your phone on record, pop it in your pocket, and then listen to it back. Listen to your speech back a couple of days later, because I can tell you that that's imposter syndrome for me. And listening back to my speeches, and like now I've got a collection of speeches that I've done, and going back and listening and proving myself wrong. It wasn't bad. I didn't stumble. It's just my own insecurities. It's my own anxieties, my own imposter syndrome telling me I did a terrible job. When I've gone back and listened, that's not the case. I actually did a good job. Some of them I actually really enjoyed listening back to. A bit, self-absorbed there, but I did. I really enjoyed listening back to that speech. So if you've had a negative experience, think, was that because someone's come up to you and said, that was awful? Which is a terrible thing for someone to do, because they probably don't want to get up on the stage and do it. Was it because there was something in it that you maybe tripped up on? Was it because the audience seemed uninterested? Sometimes the audience seems completely uninterested in what you're saying, and yet it's not the case, and they are actually genuinely interested. Sometimes people have that resting, I don't know if I can say that on the stream, but they have a resting face. And that face looks like they're not interested, but sometimes that's just them concentrating on what you're saying. But the best thing to build long-term confidence is to keep going. I tell you, when I was younger, I was in a band, and my first few gigs were terrible. But I wanted to get up and play because I wanted to be in a band. So I got up and I played and I practiced. And that to me made all the difference, because I didn't give up. To build long-term confidence, you need to push past anxiety, you need to push past negative experiences, and you need to get up and do it again, and do it again, and do it again, and keep going until you start to feel positive experiences. And like I said, you only need one person to say, I really like that point you made, for it to completely change your whole perspective on public speaking. So I hope that's helpful. And I say, if you need any more help, I can't stress enough actually, record your speeches so you can listen to them back. You mean you could put your phone anywhere in the room to be able to listen back to what you had to say. But I honestly feel like you will find that helpful. Okay. What else have we got? What are some practical techniques to manage physical symptoms of anxiety, like shaky voice, racing heart, before and during a speaking engagement? Well, actually, this is really, really powerful. We get that, don't we? When the anxiety rises and we get really tense, like we said, your voice starts to shake, your voice quivers, and you lose sort of that powerful voice that you want, that gravitas that you want from your voice. What can we do? Well, actually, there's a really beneficial technique, especially when you're saying your first words. So like I said earlier, your first words you say often are the ones which will make or break your speech. If you can start your speech right and really do a great job with the opening words you say, your speech tends to fall into place, because it's the height of your anxiety and nerves are always right at the beginning. So what you can do with this one is practice that first line really well, and then you want to make it so that your first word comes off as really like full of power and authority and gravitas. And that depends on how you speak. Have you ever had that squeaky voice when you go to say your first word? I tell you the reason why, because you spoke as you breathed in. As you breathed in, did you hear that then? As you breathed in, because breathing in as I spoke, you get a higher pitched, squeakier sound to your voice, that tremors almost, which is going to sound awful. And when you're already feeling anxious, that is going to make or break your entire speech. So what you can do then is get to the stage, wherever you're speaking from, pause for just a second. Pausing is so important in public speaking. Pause for a second and breathe in, and then speak your first words on your exhale. Your exhale is always going to be deeper because the air will come from deeper inside your body. So make sure you can do that. Start by speaking deeply from your exhale rather than your inhale. The best thing is to calm down a shaky voice and racing heart and the physical things that happen, your tense body, is just really deep breathing. It honestly makes a massive difference when it comes to our public speaking, because it really changes the whole setup of your body. If you can breathe deeply, get oxygen into your entire body, your anxiety drops, like we said, and you will be able to speak more confidently. Plus, you've practiced that opening line, it comes out really strong. Okay, what have we got now? The next question, let's have a look. Yes, Gary, you were first in the comments. Great. The next question we've got. Are there specific strategies for adapting, sorry. I'm sure there are strategies for adopting, but are there specific strategies for adapting your approach when speaking to different audiences, such as colleagues, strangers, larger groups? Well, yeah, there is. Obviously, when we're speaking to a large audience, we have to adapt our approach in the sense of who we're speaking to. How are we speaking? When obviously we're speaking in smaller groups, there's often a chance that we can engage them more directly, which creates better feedback. For example, creating feedback on a stream like this is quite difficult. You're not in the room with me, and so I'm hoping to engage with you, but I have to just talk. I have to talk at the camera and might get some through the chat, like we said. But when you're in a small group, you can literally say, have you found this? And let them answer. When you're on a stage, you can't necessarily do that, but you want to think about how you engage. Do you ask for shows of hands? Are you looking for them nodding along to your feedback? You have to think about the audience as a whole, big or small. If you're speaking to a colleague, you know them, but maybe not as well as a friend. So there's less familiarity there. The way we speak to them, we want to keep it more on the general. We don't want to go deep. Some people find that uncomfortable if you don't have that interconnection with them. And when speaking to strangers, this is the one which I find can really ruin our anxiety or build it up too much, because especially if they're not seeming to be engaged in what you're saying. But strangers are one of the best test beds for our public speaking. If you can walk up to a stranger, not to stop people in the street, but maybe go up to somebody in a coffee shop, or you could speak to your barista. Sometimes even just like holding the door open for somebody. And when you do that, you get the opportunity to engage them in conversation. Could you spark a conversation with them for just a few seconds? Now, in this country, England, we often talk about the weather, which is a great starting point. But everybody talks about the weather. So is there something else, a different topic that maybe you could try to engage them on? Obviously, be careful with the sorts of things that maybe you do, because it could be very political views and maybe not wanting to get into that sort of really deep conversation. But we're just trying to work on sparking people into having a conversation with us. And then when we talk to bigger groups, the conversation is more one-sided. So we need to think about what we're saying and how we can hook people into what we're talking about. I do have some really useful help on hooks. I think if you go to www.the-speakersacademy.com/hook, I have a whole guide there on crafting hooks. And then if you can sort of embed that into your brain, you can hook people when you start speaking to them. So yeah, that's how we adapt how we talk to people. So yeah, let's have a look. Is there any more questions? Has anybody got anything else they want to say? Or did you enjoy this? How about that? Did you enjoy this stream? Because I really hope that you've taken away some powerful notes on public speaking, on anxiety. I hope there's things in there that can really help you. Say those 7 steps with 1 extra that you can use to reduce anxiety. But there's so much more that we can do. So I'd love to know if this has been helpful for you. Put yes in the chat, because even if you're watching the replays, pop yes in the chat, because it helps me to see that this was useful to you and that you got something from it. But yeah, as I say, public speaking is a journey. We start at the beginning, and we're not going to be great at the beginning of public speaking. We're going to have to accept that we need to work on things. That's why I put together a course to help people to transform themselves. But the starting place is always going to be one which is maybe slightly more awkward, not maybe what we want it to be. But we can work on it, can't we? And we can improve ourselves. And this improvement benefits us not just in public speaking, but in all aspects of life. We can find ourselves been really profoundly impacted, like I have. I even credit the work I've done on communication via public speaking with helping me to connect with the women who become my wife. I wouldn't have been able to do that if I hadn't overcome my fears and learned to step out when I feel uncomfortable, hadn't learned how to control my breathing when I feel anxious. Because I tell you something, when you're trying to speak to someone you're really interested in and you're trying to sort of make a good impression, being able to control your anxiety is massive. So don't think that this training is just good if you're going to do public speaking. This can help you in all aspects of life, as will the course. It will help you in all aspects of your personal life. So I really hope this has been beneficial for you. If you want to reach out as well, so you can still leave comments in the chat and I'll see them and I'll come back and comment on any of those. If you want help with anything, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in there. But if that's the end of the training, I really hope you have a great day. I hope you have a page full of notes, and don't forget that special offer is available until tomorrow night at midnight, the 24th of July. But thank you for joining this training. I hope that you benefited from it, and I look forward to catching up with you on another video or in another training like this one. And if you want more of these, say yes please in the chat. Thanks very much for connecting, and thank you for your time.